Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for everyone who are watching my video. This is my poetry appreciation midterm test. This test I will explain about two material which I have been made in PowerPoint. So the material is about imagery and a sound. And then the sound will be divided into three things. It's alliteration, rhythm, and assonance. So let's get started to the my share screen first. Screen. Go. Okay, so this is my midterm test for representation. For the beginning, my name is Ibnu Annas, and with my student ID is 33220614. I'm from 33.4a.01 class. So my first material here is about imagery. So I will divide it into four parts. It's about the definition, types, and the example of the poem from the imagery itself. And the last is conclusion. First, definition. Imagery, as we know, is a visual about a symbolized or a figurative language that evokes a mental image. So the other kinds of sense impression, and especially in literary work, but also in other activities such as psychotherapy. But in other definition, imagery is literally a device that used in a poetry, in a novel, and other writings that use vivid description. So the imagery is actually the idea in someone's head, and by using the imagery, the writer or the singer maybe use this imagery to express something so that the people who are read or something like that will also feel something. So this is the types of imagery. There are 7 kinds of things in imagery. First, visual, auditory, and then gustatory and olfactory, and then tactile, kinesthetic imagery, and organic imagery. First, visual imagery. Visual imagery is most likely you are think of when they heard of the term imagery. It uses quality of how something looks visual with your eyes to best create an image in the reader's head. So when the readers using his visual imagery, the readers could think of what the reader thinks about the novel, the poem, or something, so that the imagery could make it looks real. Sorry. And the second is auditory imagery. As we know from the or we can use it about the audio. Auditory imagery is something that you feel with your ears. About the sound, the voice that coming out from the outside to your ears. This type of imagery appeals to reader's sense of hearing. Creating an auditory experience through the text maybe could be difficult, but it can also be necessary for a story or a plot. I give you some example. The sounds of war can be necessary to immerse the readers into a war novel. This may describe the sense of the war, like gunfire, explosion, screams, and also the sound of the helicopter, etc. The third is gustatory imagery. Gustatory is kind of imagery that aims at the reader's sense of taste, maybe using your tongue, your mouth, or maybe your skin. This would be most commonly used in the describe food as a character when a character eats the food. Maybe the taste of the food is sweet, salty, or even spicy. Readers can emerge to a further into a character's simply action of eating. This gustatory imagery can also be incredibly effective when describing unpleasant taste as well. The fourth is olfactory imagery. Olfactory imagery is used when writers want to appeal to a reader's sense of smell from your nose. Olfactory imagery is a great way to better describe something or both what a character is experiencing as well as the word of the novel, the poem, or the other writing. The smells of fresh rain. Maybe I give you some example. You know the smell of the rain, the smell of after the rain, and then you read some novel that there are something that describe the smell of the rain, the readers creating a smell of the rain. You can also sense that from the novel itself. It's called olfactory imagery. The smell of the, not just the smell of the fresh rain, it's also the smell of the smoke from a fire or gasoline can be described through olfactory imagery. This also used in a screenplay as a plot point to suggest of the actor what they are smelling and how they are reacting. Next, the fifth, tactile imagery. Tactile imagery is create the sensory experience of touching with your skin through the text. The writer utilized tactile imagery used to describe how something feels, such as texture from a thing, or a person, or a food, or you can say to touch the temperature, wetness, or dryness, and etc. The sixth is kinesthetic imagery. This imagery is used to describe a sensory experience of motion, like speed, slowness, falling, or even fighting, or even can be written with this kinesthetic imagery. In the work of screenwriting, the kinesthetic imagery is perhaps most important in the genre of action films. Kinesthetic imagery is also great when writing about topics like sports, driving, and other intense action. And the last of the types imagery is organic imagery. This imagery appeals to the most primitive sensation in the human experience, such as hunger, fatigue, fear, and even emotion, something from the inside of human body. It can be quite difficult to describe because the sorrowful of a character or desperate character. But this imagery just aims to do that. When done effectively, organic imagery can be the best tool to move the reader to tears of their joy or sadness. This is the example of the poem from every kind of imagery. The visual imagery from the Preludes by T.S. Eliot, auditory imagery Tiger Spray by Mark R. Slaughter, gustatory imagery from Man vs. Pepper by Robert, olfactory imagery at the water by Elizabeth Maddox Roberts. You can search it in the Google or maybe some other extension. And then the tactile imagery, The Touch of Earth by Edna St. Vincent Millay. Kinesthetic imagery, The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson. And organic imagery, I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud by William Wordsworth, 1807. Now, the conclusion of this material, the conclusion of the imagery, is that imagery summarizes an experience evoked by the image in a poem, in a novel, or in a film, leaving a deep impression into the reader. Through the clear and sensory language, the image of the closing section turns to the main message of the poem itself, so that the reader has a higher understanding or feeling, whether through the symbol metaphor, descriptive language, form conclusion, or often resonates deeply. This lingering in the mind long after the final line is read. Now, let's head to the second material of my midterm test in poetry appreciation. Sound. It departs into three things: rhyme, alliteration, and assonance. I also make this into four parts. The first part is the definition. Second is types. The third is example, and the fourth is a conclusion. Rhyme. As we know, the repetition of a syllables, typically at the end of the first line. Rhyme words conventionally share all sounds following the word's last stressed syllable. Second, alliteration. Alliteration is a repetition of the same sound at the start of a series of words in succession whose purpose is to provide an audible pulse that give a piece of writing, a lulling, lyrical, and or emotive effect. I will give some other explanation about the alliteration. In alliteration, the word should flow in quick succession. Think of like wicked witch, loose lips, or the F sounds in the line and this line from forth the fatal loins of these two foes. I got this from the William Shakespeare's Romeo and the Juliet. And now, the key is to look at the repetition of the sound from the alliteration, not the letters. The letter G, for example, sounds very different in any kinds of word, like giant, than in gas. That's why Jim Junkie is alliterative, but Jim Gluten It's not. It's actually it's not a cut and dry. However, some experts consider letter sounds such as S and sh similar enough to qualify as alliteration, such as in sing ships, sing ships. It comes down to the ear of the beholder. So I give you some example. We are still in the alliteration material. I'll give you some example from the alliteration in poetry. Consistently, the usage of the poetic device, with instant dating back to the birth of the English language, one of the most famous poems to feature the alliteration so heavily is Edgar Allan's poem. The title is The Raven. It's written by the Edgar Allan in 1845. Maybe I will read some sentence from the poem of Edgar Allan's. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping. So I guess this example is an effective use of alliteration, all the more so because it's restrained. This poem use alliteration is just pairs of words by doing so again and again over the consecutive lines so that he can create the rhythm and arrogancy. Oh, shit, okay. I will not just to explain the more definition about the alliteration, but let's head back to the rhyme. I will give you some more definition about the rhyme. So there are many kinds of type of rhyme. First is perfect rhyme, imperfect rhymes, and rhymes. Also internal rhyme, identical rhymes. There are five. Yeah, five types of rhyme. First, perfect rhymes. A perfect rhyme is also known as a full, exact, a fact, or a true rhyme. It's a pair of words that sound identical from the last stressed syllable to the end of the word. So, like in the word rotten and forgotten, the stressed syllable in rotten is the first syllable, root, rotten and forgotten. Next, imperfect rhymes. Maybe this imperfect rhymes like called a lazy rhyme or a slang rhyme. It's a type of rhyme that forms by words with similar but not identical sound. Third, end rhyme. This rhymes is when the last syllable within a first rhyme. And then fourth, internal rhymes. This rhyme is occurred within the same line or verse. It can also occur between internal phrase across the multiple lines, like creating a sense of rhythm or musicality. And the last is identical rhymes. This identical rhyme is rhyming a word with itself by using the exact same word in the rhyming position. And next we go to the assonance. Assonance is sometimes called a vowel rhyme because its effect on a reader is similar to that of a rhyme. This assonance also known as a vowel rhyme. Sorry, I actually mentioned it before. This vowel rhyme is a type of repetition that's usually found in the middle of a word. This vowel may not be exactly the same from word to word, but the sound they make will make a produce alliteration. Like this example, she fell asleep under the willow tree. This example of assonance alliteration, as the EE sound is repeated in the close succession with asleep and tree. She fall asleep under the willow tree. And next, there are many kinds of type from the assonance. This assonance is commonly used for in poetry and prose. This literary device can be seen everywhere, even in everyday language, especially when using idiomatic expression, because it's catchy and easy to remember. Let's next to the another slide. I already mentioned it before, rhyme, alliteration, and assonance there are many kinds of types. The type of the rhyme first is perfect rhyme, imperfect rhyme, end rhyme, internal rhyme, and identical rhyme, just like I mentioned before. The next is alliteration. There are so many kind of alliteration. Sibilance, consonance, assonance, fricative alliteration, plosive alliteration, dental alliteration, vocalic alliteration, general alliteration, unvoiced alliteration, guttural alliteration, liquid alliteration, and symmetrical alliteration. And I haven't uh, I have not mentioned the types and example of the assonance. So this is an example of the types. First example, when you clap your hand and stamp your feet, the repetition of the short A sound is just clap your hands and stamp your feet. The repetition of the short A is very used. Second, the sun rose high in the bright sky. In this example, the repetition of the Y and the long I sounds are used, which are interchangeable repeated vowel sound. I'll give you more example about the assonant words. First, jips and tips. The repetition of the vowel E sound, I sound, vowel sound. Second, surf and turf. Repetition of the words of the alphabet U in a vowel sound. 3. Go slung over the road. The repetition of O. 4. Do good, have a good. The repetition of the double O vowel sound. This is the last chapter of my section material, the conclusion. The conclusion of rhyme, alliteration, and assonance is sound device like rhyme, alliteration, and assonance is playing crucial roles in creating rhythm and changing a meaning and evoking the emotion and changing the emotion also. And rhyme adds musicality and unity, while the alliteration creates an emphasis and rhythm through repeated sound. And the assonance itself, on the other hand, employs the repeated vowel sound to convey mood and tone. Together, these three elements enrich the auditory experience and contribute to the overall impact and the beauty of the poetry itself, or maybe in the movie or in the novel. I think that's enough for my explanation about the material. If you have any kind of question, you may comment down below in my YouTube channel. And also, I beg my apologize if there is any kind of mistakes that have been made by me before. So I think that's enough for me. Thank you and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.